Shalom, giving all praises by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors to apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And just back with another one through the Spirit, entitled The Inheritance of the Judges. All right. And what inspired me to do this was just meditating on all the drama that takes place amongst the circumcision, amongst the different camps. All right, as it tells you in Malachi 3:18, how the righteous will be able to discern who's serving Yahweh B'Shem Shai and who's not. All right. Because again, with all the controversy, all the drama in Israel amongst the different camps, more and more I've been meditating on why judgment must begin at those that know that they're Israelites, pursuant to 1 Peter 4:17. All right. And in fact, I've been incorporating that in my prayers as of lately, more and more, that Yahweh B'Shem Shai, he continues to expose these wicked people, these wicked niggas in Israel, and get rid of them and deal with them. All right. Because you see, the thing about it is the Lord has given us a small glimpse of how things were done back in the ancient world, when you had the judges over the cities, all right, and things of that nature. What has happened throughout the generations, judgment being perverted. All right. And ultimately it has led to us being over here on the western side of this world, through and through, prophesying in sackcloth. Jacob's out here with dyed pink hair, skinny jeans, and Crocs on. All right. But nevertheless, Lord willing, we'll be of that number. This is our inheritance. And we see why judgment is a necessity. We see why judgment is needed, why it's so important. All right. So I'm gonna just go through a few precepts. I'm gonna start off with this. Matter of fact, let me start with this in, I think that's Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16:18. Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doeth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. So you see, again, because like I said, just meditating on everything that's going on in Israel. All right. Everything that's going on in Israel. The latest fiasco with this guy Alazar. All right. The wickedness that's been coming out against this dude. And more wickedness is still coming out. More receipts are still coming out against this guy. But you still got blind followers, because they are respecter of persons. All right. They can't discern judgment. All right. You got people all on this dude's Instagram page, under his post, making comments on his YouTube videos. Hey, man, hold your head up, man. Hey, we're with you, King. We're with you, High Priest. And basically bigging this dude up, which leads me to believe, speaking as a man, that this guy, more than likely, he's not going to repent. All right. Because of these blind leaders, these blind followers hyping this dude up. All right. Because you see, the judges were crucial when it comes to upholding a city, because if the judges fell, that whole city will be overrun. All right. Before I go to this, I'm gonna go to what I was originally going to get in Jeremiah 23. Because again, man, with all this fiasco in Israel, all this controversy, it shows you the mindset of Jake, you know, from the leaders to the followers. Because like it tells you, as the leader of the people, so will the as the leader is, so are the people. So would the people be. You know, Sirach 10, I do believe. But Jeremiah 23 and starting at verse 30. Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, saith the Lord, that steal my words, everyone from his neighbor. Behold, I am against the prophets, saith the Lord, that use their tongues and say, he saith. Behold, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, saith the Lord, and do tell them, and cause my people to err by their lies and by their lightness. Yet I sent them not, nor commanded them, before they shall not profit this people at all, saith the Lord. And when this people or the prophet or priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of the Lord? Thou shalt then say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, saith the Lord. And as for the prophet and the priest and the people that shall say, the burden of the Lord, I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall ye say, everyone to his neighbor and everyone to his brother, what hath the Lord answered, and what hath the Lord spoken? And the burden of the Lord shall ye mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the for ye have perverted the words of the living power, and the Lord of hosts our power. But since ye say the burden of the Lord, therefore thus saith the Lord, because ye say this word, the burden of the Lord, and I have sent unto you, saying, ye shall not say the burden of the Lord. Therefore, behold, even I will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you in the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence, and I will bring an everlasting reproach unto you, and a perpetual shame which shall not be forgotten. So you see, man, all right, the Lord has a problem with, again, perverting judgment. All right, as I read earlier, we ought to execute just judgment. All right, you see, and all these people in Israel, all right, again, more and more we're seeing, because overall, man, when it comes to this thing of ours, you know, this thing is really for the fathers, for those that have understand, for those that have ears to receive. All right, you know, this is basically above, because as the elders say, this is not for low-level thinkers. All right, you know, and quite frankly, this high level of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we're dealing with, it's not for the average Israelite. It's not for the children. You know, this is for the fathers. All right, which only makes sense, because going back to the original judges, all right, those that were with Yahushua from the very beginning, right? I'm gonna go to this. Well, because like when you read in Genesis, the first chapter, I'm gonna just jump around. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So when you read it, how it's supposed to be read, because the Hebrew word there for God is Alahayim, which Allah just means power, and you add the yum at the end of it, it makes it plural, so that Alahayim. All right. You know, when you actually go to it on the blue letter Bible, it'll say Elohim, but that's why we have to, you know, get fluent with the Hebrew. All right, because again, the Hebrew word is Alahayim, which the Alahayim goes into the judges. All right, the rulers. All right, because as I read earlier, you know, and that's how it was done back in the ancient world. Oh, slacky, man. Fucking bozos on the comment boards, man. There's a lot of weird activity out here, man. Bunch of fucking weirdos. But typically in the ancient world, you would have judges set over the city. All right. And again, typically That's why it was important to enact that just judgment, because if the judges fell, that whole city would be overrun. And overall, that's what happened with Israel. All right, you know, going back to the original judges, because when you read in this chapter, um, um, like when you read verse 3, it says, I'm gonna read it how it should say. It said, and the powers said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And the powers saw the light that it was good, and the powers divided the light from the darkness. So you see, again, going back to the original judges, starting with Yahushua and those elect men, right? You know, issuing in that order from Yahweh Shema Shai. Because again, we see, if we're that number, why judgment is so necessary. All right, you know, those are so necessary. All right, because just look at the state of the world. All right, look at what we see amongst Israel. They're like children that are, like the scriptures say, man, a child left to himself, man, that's a dangerous, you know. Verse 20, verse 26, verse 26. And the power said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all." Jeremiah 23. I'm gonna start at verse 36 again. And the burden of the Lord shall ye mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the living power, and the Lord of hosts our power. Thus shalt thou say to the prophet which have the Lord answered thee, and what hath the Lord spoken? But since ye say the burden of the Lord, therefore thus saith the Lord, because ye say this word, the burden of the Lord, and I have sent unto you, saying, ye shall not say the burden of the Lord. Therefore, behold, even I, will utterly forget you, and will forsake you, and the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence. So, you see, because that's what perverting judgment, taking bribes, all right, dealing unjustly when it comes to judgment, man. That's what it does, you know. You know, then when truth comes out, all right, you know, and that's why, because again, with the whole fiasco with Alazar, you have the real men basically speaking forth proper judgment, because again, these guys are showing themselves not to be proper judges, man. They're showing themselves, these leaders are showing themselves more and more to be a child left to himself. Alazar is nothing but a child left to himself. All right, you see, because of that perverted judgment. All right, that's why I'm gonna go to this now, Isaiah 33, because again, that's why, to those that are sighing and crying, right, for the filthy and wicked abominations that's been going on. Isaiah 33, and about 15. He that walketh righteously, like I just read in Jeremiah, all right, you know, being kicked out of the land, all right, and so on and so forth, right? Isaiah 33 and 15. He that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gain of oppressors, that shaketh his hands from holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil, he shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be the munitions of rocks. Bread shall be given him. His waters shall be sure. And that's why, Lord willing, because again, Lord willing, we're at that number, you know, going back to the original state, or as the scriptures say, those seeking to be changed to their first estate. All right, their original judges are being set up. Was it telling you, Acts, will thou at this time restore? Let me grab that. Acts 1 and Acts 1 and Acts 1 and 6. when they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Right. Where's the other one at, man? Oh yeah, that's not what I wanted, but that is good nevertheless, because we are in the midst of the kingdom of heaven being established. All right, as much as Esau was trying to talk about the third temple, you know, or them building a physical third temple, but this is spiritual. All right, and the kingdom, it starts with us. All right, what I wanted was Isaiah 1. Like I mentioned earlier, those pillars. All right, which pillars, man, they are the ones that hold up the foundation. Pillars hold up the foundation. All right. Who's going to uphold and maintain the ways of Yahweh Shem Shai on the earth, in the kingdom of heaven overall? It's going to be Yahweh Shai and those elect men, those aristocrats, the original judges. That's who's being raised up first. Isaiah 1 and 26. And I would restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Righteousness, the faithful city. So you see, because like I mentioned, once again, back in the ancient world, judges were set up. All right, you know, and again, with all this fiasco in Israel, we're getting a small glimpse of how things were done in the ancient world. You know, the drama that the judges had to deal with, you know, the bullshit that the judges had to deal with concerning Israel, you know, concerning Jake, you know, the leaders. All right, we get a small glimpse, a small taste of how it was done back in the days of old. All right, but now we are seeing the crucial importance of judgment, why it's needed, why it's so necessary. I'm gonna grab this in Malachi, or rather Micah 3 and 1. And I said, here I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know judgment? So you see, these guys calling themselves so-called leaders in Israel, calling themselves leaders in Israel. That's why, again, that Jeremiah 23, the Lord is cursing these so-called leaders in Israel out. All right, leading the Lord's people astray. Why? Because they perverted judgment. And I'm talking about specifically about you know, so-called leaders in Israel, because the hell with the creflo dolls in them. All right, I'm talking specifically about the so-called leaders in Israel. They made this a den of merchandise, man. Made merchandise of the Lord's people. That's what this has become. All right. You see, man, you know, and hey, we have an example of our apostles and bishops, because what we see going on, hey, you know, or at least you should understand why the apostles moved the way they moved. All right, no woman coming up to the camps, man. All right, why is that? Because of the madness that was going on back in the old one west. All right, you know, we see why women, they ought to just be quiet and learn at home. All right, and so on and so forth. The list goes on. You know, but nevertheless, we see, Lord willing, we are of that number. All right, we see, we understand. That's why I go into this in Isaiah, because you can read the rest of that Micah 1 on down. You know, going into plucking off the skin from off them and the flesh off their bones. You can read the rest of that. All this because judgment is perverted. All right, and again, once the judges fall, the city is overrun. The city gets overtaken. This whole city has become a spoil. And that's what we see overall with Israel. Israel has become a spoil because the judges fell. All right, the original judges. Start with Yahushua and those elect men. Oh, where was I going to go? Isaiah 29. Isaiah. Bear with me. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that's yeah, Isaiah 26 rather. Isaiah 26 in verse 8. Yeah, Isaiah 26 and 8. Yea, in the way of thy judgments, O Lord, have we waited for thee. The desire of our soul is to thy name and to the remembrance of thee. So you see, we can't wait for the Lord to come back and you know, establish order. Because we see, man, we see the chaos that has ensued since the judges fell. All right. Verse 9. With my soul have I desired thee in the night. Yea, with my spirit within me, I will seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. All right. And we see why righteousness is needed, man. All right. We see why Yahushua has to come back. He has to come back. All right. And through Yahushua and those elect men, that's when righteousness will be established. The original judges will be set back up, and the world will be ran, ruled in righteousness, man. No more GMOs, you know. No more damn allergies, you know. No more sicknesses amongst Jake. You know, just perfect peace. The Lord's coming to bring back perfect peace. All right. That's why, and again in verse 8 it says, yea, in the way of thy judgments, O Lord, we have waited for thee. Because we understand the importance and the necessity of why judgment is so important, man. All right. You know, so this is our inheritance. All right. The inheritance of the judges. All right. The judges fell, and you know, Israel as a whole has become a spoil, but the original judges are being set back up. All right. So Lord willing, this was edifying, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashim El Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully elect.